Hey, welcome. This is Dr. Mike DeBoard again with another BFR story. Today we have Dr. Clint Dickinson. Dr. Clint is a chiropractor. He's in Castle Rock, Colorado, and he's had a great BFR journey, both personally and now he's seeing similar results in his patients. It's great to have you on our interview and story today, Dr. Clint. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Mike.
So you've been an athlete your whole life, right? You can see pretty quick Dr. Clint's a big guy, right? I know you played some rugby and he was a guard in football. So this guy's a big dude, but Dr. Clint, tell us a little bit about your history and kind of where you were before we, started sharing with you BFR.
Okay. I was very blessed as an athlete. I ended up being able to play two sports in college. I played football in college and got to wrestle in college. Ended up with six letters from the NCAA, six varsity letters from the NCAA with the level of sports I played with. And through that, lots of heavy weight training because you had to. You're not playing on the offensive line in college if you're not bigger, faster, stronger every single day. So lots of heavy weightlifting, which you acquire a bunch of little injuries throughout that time frame. And if you're going to play at that level, those injuries can't bug you. You got to keep going. What's interesting is when I stopped playing, I had lots of issues with my lower back and found chiropractic. Chiropractic changed my life, was able to get me back up and running, and decided to become a chiropractor. Then when I was at chiropractic college, got to play rugby for Palmer College of Chiropractic. At that point in time, it was the highest level of rugby you could play in America. I played that for 6 seasons. We went to the national championship tournament my last year, so it was a great run. And it's interesting is you stop training at that high level and you get a little bit of time, a little bit of age, and man, all those injuries start to come out. And fast forward to just 4 years ago for me, I was doing some traditional heavyweight training in my basement. I was actually doing 95-pound dumbbell bench press for sets of 12. And on my second set, I went to push the dumbbell up, and my right shoulder just made a god awful noise. It was horrible, lots of pain. I had to change how I was taking care of patients, had to change how I was living my life because I couldn't bring my arm out and couldn't move it. And as interesting as it took me about 6 months to rehab it to where I could get normal motion back, but I still had no strength. And then I met a friend, Dr. Ken Otto. He introduced me to the B3 bands at BFR. At that time frame, my mentality was BFR was very much for old people who still wanted to work out. And
Yeah.
within 3 weeks of doing consistent BFR training, my shoulder was right back to where it was before I tore it up with the heavy dumbbells. And for me, that was just mind blowing on how I could recover that fast, especially because I've been working on it for 6 months, and then B, the pump, the burn, the results I was seeing just in a very short time frame made me realize like I've got to share this. I've got to spread the word to my patients, to my colleagues, because man, my undergrad degree is in exercise science, so I understand all this stuff about heavy weight training. I understand about high intensity interval training. I get all that, and the BFR just blew my mind, not with the science, but with the results. Once you throw the bands on, you actually do it. It's just crazy what happens. And you start to dig into the science. And in my opinion, the first look, you're like, that doesn't make sense. But you start to look at it and go, they're doing good work. And my personal results totally mimics what the science is saying. So it makes sense. It's just a different way of thinking and a totally different way of getting results, which is hilarious because it's better, faster, and you're getting stronger quicker than what you
Yeah.
could with the heavy weight training.
So what's exercise look like now? Like before, it's your long cardio, it's your 45 minutes to 60 minutes of weight training. What's it look like in terms of load, time, recovery, soreness, now that you've switched over to
Well,
BFR?
so now it's interesting because time is dramatically shorter. I mean, my cardio is 10 minutes, and it's ridiculous. As I was actually just talking to a friend of mine this morning, he's trying to get his health back, and his cardio is down quite a bit. And I shared him with him my 10-minute BFR workout. And I said, dude, you do it 3 times a week for 2 weeks and call me. And if you're not blown away, I'll buy your bands back from you.
Hmm.
Because I had last summer, we tested my VO2 max and it's 98% of my age group, which is the late 40s. And I thought, man, I'm working out 10 minutes 2 to 3 times a week for cardio, and I'm just killing it with the VO2 max. Just which feels awesome because I have more time throughout the day. I'm a busy professional. I don't have an hour to waste in the gym, and also I'm not beating my body up anymore. With the weight training, it's interesting because my the volume of training is greatly condensed. It's interesting with the BFR, I am still using dumbbells, still pushing weight. I'm not pushing the amount of weight that I used to. So risk of injury has just dropped dramatically. Results have gone up. It's great because I'm doing 2 to 4 sets of exercises, 2 to 4 different exercises, 3 sets each. When I'm training, say upper body or lower body, to where in the past you do 5, 6, 7 exercises trying to hit all the muscle groups, and now I don't need to do that with the BFR. I'm able to train those muscles to fatigue and get a great burn and a great result with strength and endurance.
Yeah. So how's your soreness? I know you certainly couldn't be doing that on your lunch break, right? Because you got to come back and work out with patients and you got to be careful, right? Especially as a chiropractor, because you got to be able to go into the work the next day. How's your recovery
Yeah.
and how your functioning been since you changed?
Oh, it's amazing because I can now train 6, 7 days a week, and I'm not beat up. I'm not sore. I'm not achy. In the past, if I did a big chest or say a core day, and I go to adjust patients, you just feel those sore muscles every single time you push on somebody. And I didn't
Yeah.
even have patients like, hey, with this adjustment, but then with the BFR, I don't get that anymore. I don't get that soreness because I'm not damaging those the muscle fibers like I used to. So it's fantastic. I always say to patients, like, would it be better for you to get a huge workout today, or would it be better for you to get a good workout today and be able to train again tomorrow? Because if we
Hmm.
get this huge workout and it's going to take you 3, 4 days to recover and be able to train again, what's the use in that? So,
Exactly. Yeah, so I know, you recently decided to implement it in your practice, right? The results are undeniable. So, share with me some of the stories. I know you got a great bone density study, you got blood sugar, a cancer patient, and these are things we don't typically think about, do we, Doc? We think about just
no.
muscle and weight loss, and then you've implemented in your son. So share with us some of those stories you have of people that have implemented it.
Well, so it's interesting as you get to understand the science of the BFR and you understand how profound the changes can be, you start to understand that this just isn't a better means of exercise. This is a way of regaining your health. And that's, for example, I've got a patient in her mid 70s. She got bone density issues. She had some blood sugar issues as well. But, and this it's interesting as we age, people that get these health conditions, they're not just facing one problem. It's multifactorial. But
Hmm.
like this one patient with her bone density, we got her doing the bands and very simple, 5 minutes a day. Some days she's just walking with the bands for 20 minutes. And in a year, she not only stopped her osteoporosis, but she actually through DEXA scan reversed it and no longer had the osteoporosis via a post DEXA scan, which is super amazing for that patient.
Yeah.
We had numerous cases where we have patients with type 2 diabetes or pre-diabetic, and we can reverse that very easily with the BFR bands, with the B3 bands, getting them to train. The greatest change I've ever seen was over a 70-point drop in blood sugar in less than 8 minutes with the BFR bands. But man, the blood sugar issues, which is super interesting because in the past you would have tried to talk the patient through diet and different exercises. And this is just so powerful and easy to get them doing and just really change their health.
And I know you're not
And
only hearing this, you're seeing it. You're actually
yeah,
measuring
it's,
you measure the blood sugar right before and after,
Yeah.
and what are people's response when they see their blood sugar drop 40 or 80 points? They've never seen that, have they?
No, and these are people, a lot of the people that I'm doing this with are people that have a continuous glucose monitor on and they're used to working out with it on. So they're telling me what's going to happen from their previous exercise of doing the steady state cardio, the time, load, and volume of traditional heavy weight training. And then we put them on the B3 bands, and it's a totally different response with the continuous glucose monitor. And their mind is just blown on
Mm.
how, just such a more powerful impact on that blood sugar. So it's great. So.
Awesome. And I know you've recently had a cancer patient that this has really given them a boost and a lift.
Yes, I had a very interesting cancer patient, total outlier. I just got interviewed with a chiropractic story about this patient. He came to me with 14 fractures in his spine due to the cancer and osteoporosis. Off the start, we knew he had osteoporosis because of the fractures and because of you could see the osteoporosis on X-rays. We did not know of the cancer diagnosis just yet, but I had educated him on the B3 bands about the osteoporosis. He agreed he had to do something. So very quickly, the B3 bands was helping him with his back pain from the nitric oxide boost. And then as we started the journey of trying to figure out the underlying problem of that many fractures, because that's not normal, the B3 bands he was able to control his pain with the B3 bands. And what we found out was the pain was actually from multiple myeloma or cancer. And it's interesting because the cancer docs were not educated on BFR nor the B3 bands. And they were trying to give this patient pain meds and they're trying to do the traditional cancer route. And the patient was like, I'm okay on pain. I'm just doing my B3 bands twice a day. And we literally just get them in the burn, 30, 60 seconds and be done. And that would help give him a big boost of energy and help control his pain. So it was fantastic to watch him do that. And it's so interesting as he's been on his cancer journey for about a year and a half now. You can see that he's made the B3 bands a pillar of his cancer program just because he knows the results that they get him. And he's made it a mainstay, whereas they're changing the different medications, trying to gain some ground. And it's interesting with the B3 bands, he's still got great quality of life, which I think
Yeah,
is
that's awesome.
huge. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. And it leads us to what we all know, actually, right, Doc? Exercise, it shouldn't be optional, but the problem is it becomes unattainable. I mean, how many cancer patients can go do high intensity exercise, but we give them a
No.
tool to where light, low intensity that they can sustain produces high intensity results without all the stress. Well, I know you got one more
Yeah.
story. It's a little closer to your heart, right? I've met your son, and he's a pretty hungry athlete. You put him through some BFR recently and made a big change in him, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. So we did the legs with him. So it would have been two soccer seasons ago. And during the season, when you're not supposed to gain any strength or speed, you're supposed to do that all outside the season. During the season, over the course of 6 weeks, doing the bands on his legs 3 times a week, he dropped 1.4 seconds off his 40 time,
Wow.
which for him is huge because as an athlete, that's the area he needs to see the biggest improvement on. So that was a game changer.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. He's now 14, and we can see that the B3 bands are going to be a mainstay of his exercise training. And it's interesting for him because he actually is doing strength class, and his strength coach, had him. They're doing back squats, and he's never back squatted before because we don't do that. This for a teenage boy loading the joints like that. I just don't think is healthy. The research is showing it's not good, could possibly stunt growth. And if you look at the research, BFR is a way to go with teenage athletes. And the kid just one time trying to find out what his one rep back squat was. And he's like, Dad, I did 205. No
Jeez.
problem. He's like, I think I could have done more, but he just didn't know what he didn't know what he was doing because he'd never done it before.
Right.
And it's 100% from the B3 bands and the training.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's
So
nice with these young athletes, right? They can implement it because we don't need an hour workout. They're not going to be sore, so they can find, time in season, like you said, to do a couple workouts a week, and then the off season, it's a great training method. Well, Dr. Clint, thanks for sharing those awesome stories, and it's great to see all your clients and family and your friends that are starting to get results. We'll look forward to hearing more from you in the future. Thanks for joining us today.
thanks for having me, Dr. Mike.